Away we go on the Monday edition, St. Patrick's Day edition of Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf from the Gerber Offices, One Call That's All Studio at the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. JOSHY DiMaggio here as always. And producer Tiny Hands, Hunter Vaughn, back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. Nobody loves a specialty holiday quite like Hunter Vaughn. As we look on the video stream on YouTube at ESPN Madison, at ESPN Milwaukee, we've got four-leaf clovers surrounding me today. We've got green text all over the screen. Nobody loves a specialty holiday quite like you, Hunter.
I want to have some fun. Why keep doing the same old? Let's change it up a little bit, have a little bit of fun with the fans. So why not get some shamrocks and some green text?
I was just talking to Tori Lowe of 1017 The Truth, the Tori Lowe Show from 1 to 4 on our sister station 1017 The Truth. And he asked me why I was wearing green necklaces. And I said, well, it's St. Patrick's Day, Tori. And he said, oh, really? I said, yeah. And then a couple minutes passed, and I was walking around, and I walked past him again, and he goes, Strouf, I got something for you. So what's up, Tori? He said, I'm actually an 8th Irish. I go, okay. Do you really get to claim that, even though you didn't know it was St. Patrick's Day until about 12 minutes ago? He goes, yeah, it's my heritage. I go, all right, fair enough.
Got you
that
there.
was a real life conversation I had right before the show today. So just wanted to share that with all of you. Joshy, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is. How are you? How was your weekend?
I'm great. I power ranked on the Saturday tip-off with Alex G.
Yeah.
I power ranked St. Patrick's Day as the second most amateur hour of all the holidays, behind only, obviously, of course, New Year's Eve. This weekend in Milwaukee was insane. I've seen videos of every city having some seemingly blowout event here.
Yeah.
Now, I may be naive, but I don't remember St. Patrick's Day being what it is now, which is just a blackout festival for many people. But when it comes to holidays like this one, I tend to avoid being out in public.
All right. Well, I embrace public, as you know about me. Prior to joining your Saturday tip-off show as your featured guest on Saturday.
Yeah, you searched the downtown for a green shirt.
I was man on the street. I was checking out the parade scene prior to the parade beginning. And yes, I found a green shirt, which was not very green, but it was green enough. Button-up shirt. I'm going to wear it this week again, by the way. It's a nice shirt.
Yeah. The problem with holidays to me, like drinking holidays like this, is it's harder to get a beer at any place you go because it's more packed.
Yes, it is. And I participated in that. Luckily, actually, 2 of the 3 bars I went to on Saturday, though, I bellied up, which was very nice.
That's nice.
Now, I was the last person to belly up at one bar. I got the last seat.
Last available spot.
Yep. And that was prior to the Badgers-Michigan State game, or right when it started. And then the second bar, it was pretty much empty at that point. So it was good. It's good. I love beer, as we've learned about me. Believe it or not.
Okay.
Now, it has been a thing probably since before I turned 21, but especially since I've turned 21. I need to have a green beer. And we have reached now in Milwaukee, not this past weekend, but the weekend prior was the Shamrock Shuffle, which is a big, big blowout party. You know, all the college students wear their green and go get wasted, right? I didn't participate at all in that. Now,
Glad you grew up.
This weekend was just St. Patrick's Day, so you had a lot of families and kids at the parade, and obviously people going to restaurants and bars to go get food right after. No green beer at any of the bars I was at. Today is March 17th. This will be the last day I'm able to get a green beer, and I don't know where to go, but I really want a green beer.
One, that's incorrect. There will be many places for days to come, maybe even weeks to come, that still have a keg of tapped green beer. I have, on more than one occasion, had it at a discounted rate, and they said, well, we've got this beer, but this is $2, and we're trying to get rid of it because it's no longer St. Patrick's Day. 2, having a green beer is not like having corned beef and cabbage or a Reuben. It's the same beer. It's just colored different.
I understand that. And by the way, I made corned beef and cabbage again last night. It was delicious. I think it's my best batch yet.
Visibly a bottom 20 meal.
It is not pretty in presentation.
No, it does not look good.
Especially because you're making, the vegetables sit in there all day, minus the cabbage. You put the cabbage in later, but obviously cabbage disintegrates, right? Like it once it gets moist and hot, like it becomes like a mush almost, right? It's still delicious, but it's not visually appealing by any means. I hear you on that. But I made corned beef and cabbage last night, and it was delicious. I crushed it last night. I was very proud of my efforts. I made it last year in an Instant Pot, and it was good. But the meat, and we kind of talked about this off the air, the meat was not as tender as you'd probably prefer for corned beef and cabbage. But so anyway, the background here is my mom's side of the family is very Irish. Now, both of my grandparents are gone, but my great-grandfather on my mom's side was a descendant from Ireland. So we are very Irish on my mom's side of the family. So I love this holiday. It's one of my favorite holidays every year. And that is why I need to get a green beer. Now, I found a local bar that is an Irish pub that has, quote, live music, Irish dancers, green beer, and Guinness tonight. They opened at 6 a.m. in fact.
Is that the Irish bar down the street from us?
Nope, not that one. Different one.
Wow.
I went to that Irish bar on Friday, and they did not have green beer.
Wow.
The one that's up the street.
Yes.
I had my fish fry there on Friday, and they did not have green beer. I asked. So I am still on the search, but it is the one by the lake, or the river, I guess it would be. That is primarily catered to college students.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not a place I no longer am willing to go.
Yeah, not my favorite spot. I'm always the oldest one there,
Yes.
and I'm 26.
So then imagine me being there.
Correct. You are, what, 10 years older than me? 9 years older than me?
It's one of those, and there's few places like this, and they're sort of gems, where during the day it's acceptable to be there. As soon as sun sets, you got to get out of there.
So I'm thinking maybe after work, if I just rush over there.
You view yourself in a rush over there for green beer situation.
I want to be home at a decent hour. It's Monday.
Right.
I just need one. Like I need, and you know me, when I say I just need one, that means I'm going to have three. But
need is also an operative word here.
Well, need is not real, but I very much would like a green beer because it feels like an annual tradition of sorts. Chef Ed chiming in with a bar I was at on Saturday that didn't have green beer. So, I'm confused by this. So, okay. Anyway, that's my issues. We don't need to spend too much time on this. So, you want a green beer later?
No. I'm no interest. Got to be honest.
Okay.
Don't even ask me.
Well, I tried.
Do you not drink beer, Hunter?
I am allergic to 3 out of the 4 ingredients in beer, so it's a bad time. Barley, hops, and wheat. So
I'd suggest not consuming them then.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, good talk, everybody. Let's get to the big news of the day, which is this piece of paper right here.
Wow, you gave a color?
This.
Did you highlight just in case you forgot where Marquette and Wisconsin were?
Yeah. Just so I know which region they're in. Yeah. So this is the piece of paper that matters today. The bracket is here. We have a bracket. March Madness is here. I am so fired up about it. I don't even know where to begin. But I will begin with the fact that I have been waiting for this. I've been grinding the tape. I have watched way more college basketball this season than I ever have before. I think I know more, and that means my bracket is going to do even worse than ever before. What I have learned for myself, and I wonder if others feel this way, is the more research that I do ahead of selecting a bracket, the worse I do. The less prep I do, the better I do. So I'm trying something this year where last night after the bracket came out, I selected teams and an ultimate champion, and I am not going to touch it again. And then I am going to measure that against the brackets that I will ultimately tinker with. Now, those that have listened to the show for a couple of years know this, or have listened to me for a couple of years know this, but maybe you've never heard me say this. Every year, the Wednesday night before March Madness tips off, I struggle to sleep. I legitimately get, on average, maybe 2 hours of sleep the Wednesday night leading into Thursday tipping off March Madness. because I am busy tinkering with my bracket, whether it's on paper, whether it's via the ESPN Tournament Challenge app, which, by the way, you could join the ESPN Wisconsin Tournament Challenge. The password in all lowercase letters is his Cousins. The winner will win a $1,000 gift card to Cousins Subs. So you can join. I was, by the way, just a humble brag, I was the second entry in that tournament challenge. ESPN Tournament Challenge app, ESPN Wisconsin Bracket Challenge group. Password is Cousins. The winner will get a $1,000 gift card to Cousins Subs. It's free to enter. It's fun to play. All of the ESPN Wisconsin personalities will be in it, including myself, Joshy, and Hunter. You can compete against us on the ESPN Wisconsin Bracket Challenge using the ESPN Tournament Challenge app. But anyway, Wednesday nights, I don't sleep. Like, I tinker. I study matchups. I was up late last night studying teams. Like, Joshy, I came in today about 9 a.m., as I always do. One of the first things I said to you was what? Do you remember?
No.
It was about a college basketball team.
Usually when you walk in the morning, it's in one ear, out the other. I'm not ready for what you're bringing me. I believe you mentioning a team as UC San Diego would be what you were talking about and why they are the darling for an upset or possibly a deep run.
Yeah, UC San Diego, a 12 seed, taking on Big Ten champion Michigan in the first round.
I heard Ken Pom then shortly after, and then I officially tuned you out.
Yep. Highly ranked in Ken Pom.
Yeah.
They check the boxes.
Here's the thing. I enjoy filling out brackets. I love this time of year. I think even if you would consider yourself even like the most casual of college basketball, it's fun. It's do or die. It's games all the time. There's action going on. Your bracket matters. If you're into gambling, you've certainly placed wagers on this. I don't think there is any amount of research that can help with completing and having the most accurate of brackets. I think the nature of one and done, of injuries popping up, of certain players having good days versus bad days, some travel, there's all these factors that go into it that it's just fun. It's just you pick, and usually every year you have one upset going way far, and if that team doesn't go, you're pretty much cooked. There is no rhyme or reason. If there was, the guys like the Rothsteins and the Fantas and all those people would just crush and have perfect brackets every year or near. They don't. No one does because no one knows what's going to happen. It's the most intriguing because every option is on the table. As you can see, DJ Burns becomes a character, and that team ends up going to the Final Four, which I'm sure there were stats on it, but I would bet you less than 5% of people had that team making the Final Four. That's just the nature of this. That's what makes it so fun, because I think it is the great leveler of fans. It is everyone's on equal ground. You can watch hours and hours and days of college basketball. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. And that's the part that frustrates me. I said to you also earlier, which I'm sure you weren't listening to, one of these years, I am going to go either 16 of 16 on one of the days. This will never happen, although I'm going to pretend it will someday. 32 of 32 in the first round. Have a perfect bracket going into the round of 32. Now, again, that will never happen.
I would take the field.
Really bold of you. Very bold of you to say, hey, Strouf's going to get one of 32 games wrong. Yeah. I did have I was in college, so probably, 6, 7, 8 years ago at this point. I had the first 15 games of the NCAA tournament, right? And then there were 17 games left. I think I went like 4 of 17. Because that's just what happens. Yes. But I felt like an absolute freaking genius.
The worst part is having the great first round. You get 3, 4 wrong, and you're like, I am cooking. And then the team you have making the Elite Eight is out in the very next game, and like everything starts crumbling.
Yeah, it's all crumbling from there.
I think my best was I had 2 wrong one year. And this was many years ago when I was much more casual and was just kind of picking and looking up, Googling what does CBS Sports say are the most likely upsets, and then going that way. I believe I did have a perfect one day, and then the next day is where I lost 2. It's so much luck.
Yeah, it's completely luck.
Yeah,
which is why it's so great. Go ahead, Under.
Well, I was just going to say, I think the worst thing is the year that it was like North Carolina, Tyler Hansborough beat Michigan State for the title. That year I finished in like the top 5% of ESPN brackets. Like I had West Virginia in that Final Four, I think it was. Like I did awesome. The next year, I barely got any games right because you try to follow up the next year. And you're like, oh, I'm a genius. I know this stuff. I can do this. And then you're just terrible. That like I can handle a bad day, but it's the one year to the next up and down that crushes me.
We see it every year. By the end of the first weekend, there will be like less than 100 perfect brackets left. And that's like millions of people who did it via the ESPN app or ESPN, whatever the preferred method is. Virtually everyone is out of the perfect bracket running by the conclusion of the first weekend.
Who's going to do the best of the three of us? It's going to be Joshy. As confident as I am already, it's not going to be me.
I use heavily influenced by gambling. I also, and I do this purposefully because if I'm not going to be first, I would rather be last. I want the most unique, the most likely team to win that is picked the least. So I'll look at the numbers, how many people are picking Auburn, are picking Florida, are picking Duke, and from there I'll pick the least likely because I want the winner. I don't care about being sixth. That doesn't matter to me. I want to be first. So I oftentimes have collapses and they happen right away.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm sorry, I was a little distracted there, Joshy. Yeah, if you couldn't tell. The new AP poll just dropped, which is always interesting to compare to the NCAA tournament field and the bracket, because obviously the number one team this week might not be the number one overall team in the bracket. And that is indeed the case. Auburn dropping down to fourth this week. Duke is once again number one. They are the number 2 overall seed. Houston, number 2. They are the number 3 overall seed. Florida up to number 3 in the country. They are the number 4 overall seed. And Auburn, the fourth team in the AP poll, they are the number 1 overall seed. Wisconsin taking a big jump in this week's AP poll, up 5 spots to number 13 in the country. Marquette has fallen out of the AP poll. They are down to 27th overall, still receiving some votes, but behind Oregon, Gonzaga, Missouri, Purdue, Arizona, St. Mary's, all in the top 25. Drake receiving 107 votes. They are 26. Marquette 27th, and right behind them, Joshy, UC San Diego, number 28 in this week's AP poll. So there you go. There you have it. All right, let's dive into this bracket a little bit, because I think there was a lot of commentary and thoughts and concerns, etc., about some of the placements of both the local teams, but really overall, what were the big takeaways from the bracket? I think there was no larger takeaway in the tournament field than the University of North Carolina was the final team into the field, team number 68, getting it over a team like West Virginia, who seemingly had a much better resume than North Carolina, and maybe not as deep of a tournament run as the University of North Carolina made the ACC semifinals, but a much better resume nonetheless. North Carolina has 1 quad 1 win. 1. That's not good. West Virginia has 6 quad 1 wins. Right? Just for comparison, a quad 1, for those of you that are not familiar, are essentially the top 64 teams in the country. So North Carolina gets in. They are in a play-in game against San Diego State, which I believe is Wednesday. I don't have the round of 68 schedule in front of me. No, I take that back. They play tomorrow on True TV against San Diego State, 8:10 tip Central Time tomorrow for North Carolina. So they will play Thursday. And by the way, they would be a team that plays in Milwaukee if they win tomorrow against San Diego State. North Carolina would come to Milwaukee tomorrow. As Ole Miss, the winner of San Diego State, North Carolina, Iowa State, Lipscomb will play in here in Milwaukee, as well as Illinois, 6 seed. The winner of Texas and Xavier will play them in Milwaukee, and then Kentucky, 3 seed, will play Troy here in Milwaukee. The 8 teams, well, 10 teams right now, but 8 teams overall that get the Milwaukee selection. I think the other big takeaway, especially locally, was Wisconsin got a 3 seed, but not in the Midwest. Wisconsin will not play in Milwaukee, which I think everybody thought was a foregone conclusion after the win over Michigan State on Saturday. Wisconsin obviously building their resume with dominant wins over Northwestern and UCLA, and then beating a team who is viewed as a top 7, top 6 team in the country in Michigan State, beating them on Saturday. It looked like, okay, serve it up on a silver platter, right? Wisconsin in the Midwest, Milwaukee a regional. Wisconsin will take the short trip over to Milwaukee. That not the case, as the 3 seeds, as I mentioned, in Milwaukee, Iowa State and Kentucky. They get 2 3 seeds in Milwaukee. Wisconsin's not one of them. And some people can spin it and twist it and view it as, oh, Wisconsin got screwed. But that is not my mindset at all. I don't think Wisconsin got screwed. I don't think Wisconsin needed to be in Milwaukee to necessarily make a run. As nice as it would be for short travel and obviously a dedicated fan base to just hop on I-94 and be right here at Fiserv Forum, I don't view this as a loss, to be real honest with you. I've heard the concerns about elevation, which is fair, but the team you're playing doesn't play in elevation necessarily in Montana, and they're not very good anyway. Right? They're a 14 seed for a reason. BYU, VCU, you'll play the winner of that game if you beat Montana in the round of 32. I've heard the complaints of, playing in BYU's backyard. By the way, Provo, Utah to Denver, Colorado, 7-hour, 15-minute car ride. That's without stops. Not really your backyard. Unless you consider Cleveland, Ohio, Madison, Wisconsin's backyard. Denver is not BYU's backyard. So we can go ahead and wipe that to the side. I talked to Ben Bruss last night. And obviously, that's a guy that played pretty well in the NCAA tournament. They had a great run, which included wins in Milwaukee the year they went to the Final Four. But Ben told me during the selection show, he's actually kind of ticked off that they were in Milwaukee. To that, I said, why? Right? Like, I don't get that. Why would you be upset? And he said, because you're in Wisconsin, you're in Madison for December and January and February, and it's cold and it's winter, and that's not very fun. And when the first round of the NCAA tournament is a change of scenery, it allows you and your guys to go to a city you haven't been to all year, right? Like you're traveling in the thick of the Big Ten schedule. And when Ben was playing, right, you're really only going to like Champaign or Piscataway, or right, you're not going to like destination cities. LA was not in the Big Ten at that point, with USC and UCLA now being in the Big Ten. That wasn't the case 10 plus years ago now. So I actually view Denver as a win for Wisconsin. And something that Ben has pointed out, both on Twitter and through text, and I'm sure he'll point it out again in a little over an hour on KBN, like Denver is a party city, man. And Wisconsin fans travel no matter where you go, right? No matter where the Wisconsin Badgers play, there is a large contingency of Badgers fans there. And who wouldn't want to go to Denver? Denver, weed is legal. Booze is legal. Wisconsin fans know how to party. Like, they're going to be a ruckus crowd. It's going to be awesome. So I view Denver as a total win for the Badgers, despite the elevation, in a short turnaround time, right? They're the third game on Thursday and obviously played 4 games in 4 days, which ended yesterday. So you get a day of rest. You travel likely tomorrow, and then you get a practice Wednesday in Denver, and then you're playing Thursday morning. But other than the quick turnaround time, I really do not have a complaint about the draw the Badgers got.
I don't think not playing in Milwaukee will be a determining factor, nor do I think the short rest after 4 games in 4 days will determine the outcome of the game against Montana. I do think it seems strange that you would not purposefully coordinate it so the Big Ten champion or the Big Ten championship teams always end up playing on that Friday. You are balancing that out with the Big East and the ACC. They end on Saturday, then they have until Thursday to play. Whereas the SEC, I believe they only played 3-3, the 2 teams in the championship game yesterday. You would also then allow them to play on Friday along with the Big Ten. It seems like that would make sense. It seems like you could do enough to schedule around that with the amount of options there are. Now, you do have to seed the teams where the seeding falls, yada, yada, yada. But it does seem to make sense that you would try and balance the field as much as possible in terms of layoff and time spent between actually playing games. I think it's okay to be frustrated by it. I don't think
That I agree with, yeah.
I don't think it's going to make a difference. So it is a factor, but it is not the biggest factor. It is how your team performs against, what are they favored by? 17.5 points against Montana?
Yeah, it's a huge spread.
So that's telling you right there.
16.5 right now on ESPN.
You come out and play a B-plus game, you're running them out of the gym. That's how things should go. So there's no excuse for poor performance in that. It just seems with as many teams that make it, as much that goes into making sure this all happens, you would, especially with CBS being the big TV partner of the Big Ten and of the selection show, you would figure out a way every single year to make sure that those teams don't play, especially early on Thursday.
Yeah, I hear you on that. The good news for the Badgers is, and it's not me saying, don't watch out, Montana's coming, right? This is an easy win for the Badgers.
Well,
they can go deep in their bench. They don't have to use John Tonje for 38 minutes. It's just not the way you're going to need to play this game on Thursday. You can go deep into your bench and still win this game pretty easily.
Your first weekend containing Montana, VCU, or BYU, that's a good draw. That's where you want to be. Now, I'm sure the Badgers could lose any of those games. It's the nature of college basketball. Weird, wacky things happen all the time. I just watched them lose to Penn State. But in terms of where you could have ended up in some of these other ends, you're pretty happy with the draw you got here. I mean, if they would have gotten the Midwest, it would be Troy, Texas, Xavier, or Illinois.
I don't know that I want to see Illinois again. I don't know that
it's a pretty good team.
I don't know that I want to see Xavier right away, right in the round of 32. Now, BYU and VCU are both teams that are really good at scoring the basketball. The good news for the Badgers is they're really good at scoring the basketball outside of the Big Ten championship game, but we can just forget about that.
Except for that one time that they actually didn't do it, but okay.
4 days, 4 games.
Yeah, 4 days, 4 games. Tired legs. Michigan was bad too. Their bigs were not dominant, which was a really good sign for the Badgers. Yeah, it's a team that averages 80 points a game. Or 80 and a half, I think it is. I did an emergency pod. By the way, I always say, if you're not already subscribed to the Mr. Irrelevant podcast feed, do it. Apple Podcasts,
Is emergency
Spotify.
pod the right way to use?
Instant reaction pod might be the way to phrase it. Probably not emergency.
Yeah, emergency is, oh my God, the Packers traded Jordan Love. We need to react.
Yeah, this was more of a... I watched the bracket reveal show. I had a bunch of thoughts. It's just stream of consciousness.
By the way,
it is not my finest work, but it is plenty of reaction. But I dropped that an hour after the bracket came out last night, and it would have sent an alert to your phone that you've got 15 minutes to react to. So
the selection show, they've drug it out too long. It's too long.
It's too long. I agree.
I swear I remember watching it, and they like rapid fire teams, and you were able to react, and then it was a lot of the studio reacting and like interviewing teams and their 1 seeds. This felt like, I mean, it was an hour long before you had every single team out there. It's like, what are we waiting for?
Seth in the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat says the counterpoint is they got their clunker out of the way. I like that, Seth. I like that mindset.
Yeah,
Chucky.
but couldn't you say the clunker also was Penn State or Michigan State the last time you played them?
Penn State more of a clunker, and last night was a clunker.
I mean, what was the shoot? Michigan State, they shot
awful,
12% from three.
I don't want to take that game away from Nolan Winter because he had 17 rebounds in that game and he was awesome. So it wasn't a clunker for Nolan Winter, but the other players it was. Yes, I agree. Yeah. But hey, let's just have a positive mindset entering the tournament. All right, Seth's right.
I'm not concerned about what happened on Sunday being the same. Like, it's just not going to happen. It would be a colossal letdown.
I love when people don't listen to what I say. Right? I know I talk a lot. I know I spiel. Yeah. I know I ramble. But this is not what I said. As Chucky responds on the ESPN Milwaukee chat. Chuck says this: a party city is an edge for the Badgers and its players? Yeah, because we want our players to think about partying versus playing a solid game against their opponents. Got it. Did I ever once mention the players partying? I'm 99% positive I said nothing about the players in that scenario. I'm talking about the ruckus crowd that Wisconsin faithful will bring.
I will say your lead-in talking about it being a factor for the players and then being like, well, it's good because the fans was a little bit of a head fake for me. You started it on a basketball conversation.
I think it's good for the players because they don't have to take a bus trip 90 minutes, not even, right? An hour. I think it's good that they can get out and be together in an abnormal environment versus an arena they've already played in this year.
Yes, it just seemed like a weird connection to make. But if you would listen to your full statement, it was clear what you meant. And it was not that John Tonje is going to be out in the town, in the clubs, and the nights leading up to it. Very clearly, that was not what you were saying.
Tonje's going to... I shouldn't say this. I'm going to go ahead and cut myself off there. Yeah.
Good thinking.
Good choice.
Good idea. Hey, awareness is getting better on this program. Mr. Relevant, Alex Strouf, JOSHY, DiMaggio, Hunter Vaughn hanging out with you this day after Selection Sunday, reacting to the bracket, reacting to some of the draws each of the local teams got. Wisconsin, number 3, they will take on 14-seeded Montana in the opening round Thursday at 12:30 Central local time. That is the third game of the day. That kind of sucks, right? Like, most people are going to be at work.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious from the YouTube chat, if you want to chime in, if you are a Badgers fan, is your boss going to be like, take the day off or get out of here at 12 o'clock? Or are you going to have to request the day off? Or are you going to have to pretend you're working and watch it at your desk? Like, what is your scenario Thursday as the Badgers play in the middle of the day? Just out of curiosity, I'll leave your name anonymous if you want it to be. I'm just curious what the situation is for Badgers fans. Because obviously we are different, right? We work in a sports studio that has 1, 2, 3, 4 TVs, a fifth TV back there.
Glad you have the count.
I don't know how many TVs are in here.
There's 2 on each side.
I thought there might have been 3 on one side.
I think in 2025, as long as you're not working like a traditional blue collar type job where your time is often the most valuable part of the job. So if you're a car mechanic or if you're working out in the field, not really an option to have the game on. You can have it on the radio. That's certainly a thing that would exist. But most white-collar jobs at this point, either you're working from home, which you can just flip on a TV in the room with you, or you're at a job where it's pretty lax, where you get your work done and you do as you need.
So maybe you double monitor it, right? Like I have 2 monitors in front of me. One has the game, one has your work. Do a little bit of both.
I don't think there are a lot of remaining work environments where it's put your phone away, get off of whatever website you're on. It's I trust you as an employee to do what you need to do day in and day out. I don't care how you do it.
You know what I'm realizing? I'm polling people that are watching YouTube at 12:30 Central on a weekday.
Yeah.
After further review, Mr. Irrelevant, friends and family, you might not be the best people to ask.
No.
But I appreciate you being here.
That's being self-aware.
But we do have a couple responses. Pizza. Okay, hey, pizza. I have an office to myself. I don't have to pretend to work. I'll be watching it loudly and proudly. Love it. Love to hear that. David says, I already requested that Thursday and Friday off a while ago. We'll be watching the tournament.
Most guys I know that are big, I watched the tournament. They've had this weekend marked as off like since last year. They put in advance. I ain't coming to work Thursday or Friday. Deal with it.
Listen to this from Chucky.
Chuck.
I have off, and I work for an airline at an undisclosed location. We'll be rallying the troops, a.k.a. extended family, to try to join me in Denver. Hoping to stay for Saturday's game as well with a winky face. Love that from you, Chuck. Free flights. Hell yeah.
Do we think Chuck's a member of the military? Intelligence?
No, an airline. Just said that. Works for an airline.
I thought he said I work for...
likely story.
I have off and I work for an airline at an undisclosed location. So probably works for an airport.
Yeah.
Via an airline.
Yeah.
Therefore, free flights.
The undisclosed location is throwing me off because if it's just General Mitchell, you can't... Or maybe he's doing it while at work, so he doesn't want anyone to hear that he's watching...
Way to name an airport after saying undisclosed location, yeah.
Because they couldn't also be at Austin Strobel? I'm just naming
could be a Dane County regional,
right? Yeah. That everybody knows about. if this person's watching a Wisconsin-based sports show, you don't have many options.
Well, they could be a Wisconsin alum that lives in California, Josh.
They could, but me saying General Mitchell isn't like a light bulb went on for his boss.
His boss went, oh, wait a minute, I have a Chuck that works there. I got a Chuck that works there. Seth pointing out, okay, so he's right on this. So this was always a big thing when I was in school, probably not so much in my adulthood, but like when you were in school and March Madness started, when they launched the app and the website for the first time, remember the boss button? Where like you could click it and it would bring you to an Excel spreadsheet that just has a bunch of BS in it.
Yeah.
Amazing move by the NCAA or whoever, Turner Sports, whoever did that.
Good marketing, not really effective, because if I had a spreadsheet in most of my jobs, they'd be like, what the hell are you doing? What do you need a spreadsheet for?
Right. I'm just calculating some numbers.
Checking out the numbers.
Yeah, right. Taking a look at some numbers. So, but to get back to the ultimate point before we move on to Marquette, love Wisconsin's draw. I think this is the path to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2017. And look, they've been that good of a team this year where that should be the expectation, right? At least the Sweet 16. That should be the minimum this year, given how good they've been, right? The run they went on in the Big Ten tournament, the consistency offensively and the evolution offensively that we saw throughout the season, with only a few exceptions, they have been that good. So the Sweet 16 should be the expectation. I think this draw gives them a very nice path, right? Like, JOSHY pointed it out. Had they wound up in Milwaukee, say, instead of Kentucky, that's a likely second-round matchup with Illinois. And I like Illinois. I think that's a team that could actually go on a run. So I don't know that that's a matchup I would want the Badgers to see once again, even if it was here in Milwaukee in a quasi-home game for the Badgers. VCU and BCU. Or BYU, excuse me. BYU, the 60. Is BCU a place?
No, BC is.
Boston College?
Yeah.
BU is also
South
a place.
Baylor?
Boston University.
Boston. Is Baylor also BU?
I think they might be the University of Baylor. I'll look that up.
Okay, sure. Yeah. You go ahead and verify that for us. BYU the 6 seed, VCU the 11 seed. Again, BYU can score points, man. I mean, VCU can too. These are high-scoring teams. And if they get hot at the right time outside and Wisconsin's cold like they were Sunday, obviously things can go south. You play the games for a reason. But all three of these teams that would theoretically be in the Badgers' path, Montana in the first round and then the winner of BYU VCU in the second round, are super beatable, and the Badgers are better than them. And something we've pointed out a lot, none of them have a dominant big. That was a big thing about the Badgers' draw that I cared about, right? If you have a dominant big, which, by the way, the Michigan Wolverines do. They have two really good bigs. Their top two scorers are centers. Badgers handled them fine yesterday. They out-rebounded the Wolverines. Golden and Wolf didn't score a ton of points. Golden had a decent game, but...
I lost money because that damn tall Russian wasn't getting boards.
By the way, Baylor is Baylor University.
BU, there you go. Yeah, so listening to the broadcast with Ian Eagle and company, they were fascinated by the guy Cheddar that came off which was spelled like TSCHETTER or something. And they were fascinated his name was Cheddar.
Yeah.
And they kept emphasizing Cheddar with the cheddar.
I wanted to dive through my TV screen when they got so excited about the wedgie. So dorky.
You probably saw my tweet about that. I think you're bringing that up on purpose.
I'm going to be honest, I did not.
All right, so my tweet was, I have heard both Noah Eagle and Ian Eagle get overly excited about a wedgie this week. This is March. It's the definition of March.
I hate that term.
It was the Marquette game against Xavier. In the first 2 minutes, there was a layup wedgie. And Noah Eagle yelled, and I quote, "Atomic wedgie!"
Embarrassing. Those two should be taken off broadcast for that.
Oh, stop it.
Embarrassing everyone.
You know Ian Eagle is an amazing broadcaster.
Yeah, and his Nepo baby son.
Who's also a really good broadcaster.
Sure.
Is a Nepo baby, won't argue. But has he, now that he's had the nepotism spots for like 3 years, I think he's earned his stripes now. Earned his pinstripes, if you will.
When you get put into the biggest broadcasting places right off the bat, you probably learn pretty quick.
Yeah, but here's the quick. Jack Collinsworth never did.
No.
That guy stinks.
Yeah, I just would have liked to have seen him doing some Big Ten network. Have to muscle through Purdue Rutgers at 11 o'clock on a Saturday. Like,
I hear you.
That's all.
Also, I don't like when I'm watching something and it makes me feel dorkier than I already feel. And the Eagles screaming wedgie because a ball got stuck between the rim and the backboard makes me feel like it makes me even less comfortable with my life decisions. Because watching college basketball at the rate I did this weekend, some would look at me and say, get a hobby.
That is your hobby.
And they made me think maybe I should be seeking other things to do with my time than watching those dorks scream, Reggie!
Marquette draws a 7 seed. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. In the South region, they will take on 10th seed of New Mexico. I hate to say it.
Upset?
Season's over. Yeah, New Mexico's a damn good team, man. Look, and the good news for Marquette is, and it will be the case in a lot of games they play, maybe outside of, if they are to advance, they would likely play 2-seeded Michigan State in the round of 32. Maybe outside of that game, I think Marquette has the best player on the floor, right, in Cam Jones. And if Cam Jones does Cam Jones, and you've got guys like David Joplin, I know we talked about this a little bit on both Sunday Karma and Saturday Tip-Off. If David Joplin is the David Joplin we saw against Xavier, you're going to win a lot of ball games. But if David Joplin and Cam Jones are the David Joplin and Cam Jones we saw against St. John's, you're not beating New Mexico. I mean, I like the Lobos a lot this year. I've made a lot of money on them this year.
Lobos. Are you with me that it feels like the matchup against Michigan State is better for Marquette than the one against New Mexico? I have them very live in that game. It's just I don't know if they get out of that first game against New Mexico.
I don't know that they do either. I mean, look, I love Shaka. I love Cam Jones. I love what this senior class has done for the university. As everybody said, right? It's one of the best senior classes of all time, most winningest.
Wonder if a couple transfers or someone might help.
Are you saying the fact that they didn't bring anybody in might have been an issue?
Maybe.
Or
maybe ignoring an entire way of team building is an issue.
I don't know. I mean, so we talked about this at the beginning of the season when we did Coaches Week here on Mr. Relevant, because Wisconsin and Marquette were constructed entirely differently this year. One of them is a 3 seed, one of them is a 7 seed. Now, going into the season, I don't think anybody expected John Tonje to be National Player of the Year good, let alone even a starter, right? Like, nope. I don't know what the expectations for Tonje were entering the season. Greg Gard was naturally high on him, but I think coaches are always high on their players that they recruit in the portal. Tonje came out and became the best Badger since Frank Kaminsky. I mean, maybe you can make a case for Johnny Davis, but Tonje's done some pretty remarkable stuff this season.
In terms of like 1 year performance, he's on the verge of being better than Frank in terms of scoring points.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of the context of what Johnny Davis was to that team, is basically the only option on that team.
He was the team with Brad Davison,
and
right?
He was younger, much like he wasn't a
fifth-year grad student, right?
Right. So there is some context there that's needed, but yes, this is the single best season since Frank Kaminsky.
Yeah. I mean, it's been that good. Nobody saw that coming.
No.
So when you go into the philosophy of team building, sure, getting somebody in the portal. But again, Wisconsin lost 7 guys in the portal last year. Mm-hmm. Marquette lost 0 in the portal. Mm-hmm. 0 guys left. Outside
they did lose some to the NBA.
Right, Tyler Kolek and Oso Iguodala, who are really good players for them, but they just kind of anticipated a jump for guys like Ben Gold and obviously Cam Jones and Chase Ross. And you got those jumps just inconsistently. And that's been the issue with Marquette, is that word right there, inconsistent. Now, do I believe Marquette is good enough to beat a New Mexico team? Yeah, I do. In fact, I really much do. Do I think they're good enough to compete with Michigan State? Yes, I do. Could they beat Michigan State? Yes. Do I think they get out of the first weekend? No, I don't, as it stands right now. No. I just, the inconsistencies the last month plus now have been too much for me to overcome mentally. I just can't chalk up a way for me to think, oh yeah, Shaka's going to have those guys playing like they were in January again. I hope so, and I hope they're as pesky defensively as we've come used to them being. I struggle with that New Mexico matchup. Michigan State I view as one of the best teams in the entire field, as does the committee with the 2 seed. It's a really tough draw for them as a 7 seed.
I find it interesting, the crossroads that we found ourselves at with the Badgers and Marquette. If you would have told me 4 years ago which team is going to fully adopt modernization of college basketball,
You wouldn't have answered Wisconsin.
it would have been Marquette, and I would have bet it with utter confidence, like without lacking. Now, will Shaka adjust? Perhaps, but it's hard not to point at, and it's going to be with every increasing year more and more difficult to sustain and keep all your guys around. Frankly, it was pretty amazing that they kept as many guys as they did on Marquette, but you need to be recruiting your own players every single day in modern college sports.
But that seems like something Shaka's maybe mastered.
That is. But if, there are plenty of teams have built teams they thought were going to achieve. If you fall short of your desired goals, it's probably reevaluation time. We can even relate this to the Packers. Yeah. And it seems like they're ignoring trading as an option of team building. I don't think that's wise, and I think everyone would agree that's probably unwise. Not using the transfer portal and that whole world is going to be interesting. It's going to be, are you going to, because you're going to have to start recruiting at high levels and getting those young guys.
I would just throw this out there, though, real quick, because this senior class obviously will leave a few holes. But if Marquette is an early round exit like we are predicting, right? Let's say they lose in the first round to number 10, New Mexico. I wouldn't doubt that some guys hit the exit doors, right? And then that allows Shaka a few more roster spots to go out there and convince people to come to Marquette, which I don't think is a tough sell because Shaka is an amazing basketball coach. We would all agree on that. This is a great city, and it's a good university. So that's the thing where I go, maybe that's a one-off last year, right? Tyler Kolek was a transfer. Now, he was a transfer that stayed for several years, but he was initially a transfer. So I view this as a one-off for now. But if we get to this offseason and Shaka doesn't bring all but maybe one guy in via the portal, then we have a real conversation to be had. But Wisconsin was built, obviously, through a little bit of development with the Blackwells and the Klesmits and the Crowells and the Winters of the world, and Carter Gilmore, who's become a really nice piece for them, and of course, a little bit through the portal, right? Like Xavier Amos was getting real minutes off the bench over the weekend in the Big Ten tournament after he had lost some minutes, but now he's getting his minutes back, which is still a little confusing to me, but I like what I've seen out of him. And obviously, John Tonje has been the best player in the Midwest, like the entire region of the Midwest the last couple of months. Go ahead, Hunter.
I mean, I think the bigger issue for Marquette is Shaka's refusal to do anything with a big. Even when he had Olivier Maxi Prosper and he had Oso Iguodaro, they could not win rebounding battles. And now for this first-round matchup, they've got Nelly Jr. Joseph, who averages a double-double. He is going to make Ben Gold look like his son out there. Yeah. Ben Gold's going to get beat up and end up with a black eye in this game because he's not ready to play the physical type of basketball that he's going to see. And Shaka refuses to do anything with it. His recruiting classes doesn't get a big that can actually go out there and dominate. Doesn't even care about it. And they're going to get doubled up on the boards and never be able to get a second possession because of it. And then it's like, oh, I wonder why we aren't winning. It's crazy.
So, and then the second Hunter, known Marquette fan.
Yeah.
Real quick, Hunter, you are a Marquette fan. Yep. You're also a Badgers fan, but more so a Marquette fan.
Yeah.
You sound incredibly frustrated after an exit from the Big East tournament. I didn't expect this, despite obviously a 7 seed and a tough draw for the Golden Eagles. You sound upset.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tired of seeing Shaka get embarrassed by better coaches in the Big East. Like, it's so frustrating watching Dan Hurley and now Pitino just make him look like a fool. This team goes out there, shoots really well early against these teams. These coaches are like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what they're doing now. We'll make an adjustment. Marquette doesn't adjust. Marquette doesn't figure anything out to, like, get back into a game. The second they go down in these games, it's over. Like, they just do not come back. And they can't because they don't have anyone to get them the ball back. And then it's hero ball from David Joplin. Like, if I watch him shoot another step back 3 early in the shot clock, I'm going to throw my remote through the TV. I'm so tired of it. I'm ready for him to go. Like, it's time. Go ahead. Go try and make it in the NBA. Go do your thing. Like, we're good. Thanks for what you've done for Marquette. Like, it's so frustrating that he refuses to change it up. He's not going to go for transfers. He's just not going to do it. Granted, coming into this year, their roster spots, like they really didn't have the scholarships to try and do that. It wasn't a reality for them. But this next year, I'd be shocked if he gets a transfer. And if he does, it'll be a freshman coming into their sophomore year.
I do think there is a little context that should be added on you have a full roster, hard to give out. Teams regularly say, I think you would be best served elsewhere. Mm-hmm. That is a thing that a lot of programs do. You might see someone announce and you see people get mad at them for leaving their team. But a lot of times it's, I think it would be better if we went our separate ways. And teams are doing that regularly at this point. I also found out today from Jen Latta, Jen Gabe and Chewy, 7 to 9 a.m. on ESPN Milwaukee, that Shaka refuses to work with agents and that none of the players on Marquette have agents. I don't know if that's going to work. If you're going to try and hit the transfer portal and add players, those guys are going to have agents because they are going to, one, be seeking landing spots for them, and two, be seeking NIL money. Now, you can certainly do the NIL money without the agent, but if you think there's going to be less agents moving forward than there is now, I think that is a little bit of, what's a proper way to say this? Naive thinking.
Yeah. Naivety.
Naivete.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's going to be a crossroads here. Either, I don't think Greg Gard's gotten enough credit for fully adopting the modern college basketball, modern college sports.
You can't give him enough credit is the issue. You can give him as much credit as you want because it's not going to be enough.
Right, the way it has. The way he changed offensively, changed the way he approached the transfer portal, changed the way they approached NIL. This is a complete reinvention of something that we've known for a long time. Dating back to Dick Bennett, it was basically flat the way the Badgers did basketball. You can certainly still develop talent. That is going to continue to working because there's going to be kids who view, hey, this is my best place. I'm happy with what I'm getting. I don't need to go out there and search for more and more money at every stop. Mm-hmm. I'm going to build something here, and by the time I'm a junior, senior, I'll be good, I'll be playing, and hopefully this team is successful. But you will have to, basically every single year, just reinforce. Just go back out there, entertain it, look internationally, look at other teams, you do have to do well. You do have to find a John Tonje who no one expects to be that good. But you do just simply have to find bodies and talent that is going to continually raise your floor.
Before Hunter jumps in on this, because I think this is a great conversation. I'm proud of us, not intentionally proud of us, but we're going to have to kick our Packers conversation to Wednesday because we are just not going to have time to have a full-blown Packers conversation today, which is great. Look at us being a college basketball program.
Yeah.
Good for us. We'll kick the Packers conversation to Wednesday based on some of the stuff that happened with the Cincinnati Bengals and them seemingly going all in. They could have a deal with Trey Hendrickson locked in by Wednesday after signing T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. But back to Marquette. Hunter, your rebuttal to Joshy.
Well, no, I agree with what Josh is saying. And I was going to bring up the fact that Pitino literally was doing an interview, I think it was 2 weeks ago. And he said, I'm not going after high schoolers. I'm going to get my roster next year. We're going to reload with transfer guys. He's like, I don't have time to sit here and try and grow these guys and get them to grow up and become adults out on the floor. And he's going to go out and get guys who have played basketball before, and he knows what they can do against other grown men in college. That's what the sport has become. And I was much more hopeful with Shaka, and I know it's still pretty early in his time being here at Marquette, but I want to see either they've got to make a deep run here and completely prove me wrong, which I hope they do, or he's got to reinvent the way that he goes about this and figure out a way to make this work. Or, I saw it in the YouTube chat from Jeff here. Maybe that Indiana job is looking kind of nice to him. That could be a part of this here too. I don't know. I'm just
he's not going anywhere.
You're telling me Indiana is offering you a contract or you stay in Marquette?
Yeah. He's got a much nicer thing going on at Marquette than Indiana does. Now, obviously, he's proven he's capable of rebuilding.
Indiana's NIL fund is going to be much larger.
That's true.
Top larger. 3 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they still missed the tournament. And look at Rutgers. They had 2 lottery picks on their team. They didn't make the tournament.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know that NIL fund equals success necessarily. Does it help? Of course it does. Right. Like Duke's NIL program is obviously very good, but I don't think soccer's going anywhere.
I'm going to. For the rest of my life, going to trust college coaches as far as I can throw them. And everything I know about Shaka and everyone who actually knows him and talks to him talks about how great he is.
Amazing guy.
I've also heard that about a lot of other coaches who end up elsewhere for any other reason. I mean, making personal decisions. If you get $6 million more to go coach somewhere else, I would. As much as I'm loyal to the Badgers, see ya.
Hunter, I'm just going to throw out there a reminder of a early season game between Marquette and Indiana next year. That happens in Chicago, Illinois, that some are dubbing the Tom Crean Bowl. Those 2 teams play each other in November next year. If he leaves for Indiana, I don't know if he's going to get a very good reception.
If ESPN Chicago comes offering me a contract that is more than the one I have here, significantly more, see ya. Leaving ya. That's just
you wouldn't be like, hey, can I bring Strouf with me with the NIL funds?
Nah, because they'd want to take out my check.
All right. Well, the bracket is here. Again, you can join the ESPN Wisconsin Bracket Challenge on the ESPN Tournament Challenge app. You can download that or on ESPN.com. Just search ESPN Wisconsin when you get to the men's side of the bracket. Enter password Cousins, all lowercase letters, no apostrophe. COUSINS. You will win a $1,000 gift card if you do win that. It's free to enter, and you can play against all of your favorite ESPN Wisconsin personalities. You learn something new every day. We learned something new today. It's time now for What We Learned. Excuse me. All right, I learned this last week, and I forgot to bring it up with you guys. So I need your professional opinions as taken men here on what happened to me at the coffee shop. All right, so went to a coffee shop with my direct manager. You may know him as Brian D. Okay, we went to a coffee shop together.
I know him as producer of Saturday Tip-Off.
Yeah, you're producer on Saturday.
Yes.
On ESPN Wisconsin. Brian and I went to get a coffee on Thursday of last week. And I just ordered a black coffee. He ordered an iced coffee. Nothing crazy, right? Like very simple orders. My black coffee came out first. And the female waitress, who was very kind to us when we checked out, sets down the coffee, grabs a donut hole, puts it on top of my coffee, and hands it to me. And smiles and walks away. Went to go get Brian's coffee. Hands it to him, no donut hole. Was I being hit on?
Maybe. We have to keep the option open. Did you guys get discernibly different coffees?
No, he ordered an iced coffee. I ordered a drip coffee. So, because immediately in my head, I was like, maybe it comes with a drip coffee.
Yes. That was where my thought process
was. He got black coffee on ice. I got black coffee hot.
It is different. The coffee, hot coffee, and donut pairing is as old as time. Correct. That is an infamous pairing.
But does it not go with cold coffee?
Not in the same way.
Yeah. Okay. It's like dessert with a dessert if it's cold.
Because it is dunkable.
It is dunkable. I just popped it in.
You wouldn't dunk a donut into a cold coffee. That'd be odd.
No, you're right about that. So maybe it's a hot coffee only thing?
It could be, but where did you go? Is it like a local...
let's just say it was a coffee shop within... I'll tell you where it was. It was the coffee shop in Potawatomi.
Okay.
So it was at Potawatomi. We were going to see Wildy and Tausch.
From what I know about the great people at Potawatomi, I would bet that's probably part of it.
Do you think it's a hot...
Especially because they are serving coffee at the location is very important here. At that specific location, most people aren't hanging out there. Had it been you're taking a meeting and going and spending the time at the local coffee, like a collectivo, and that happened, I'd say maybe you got something there because coffee shops famously great for first dates.
Yep.
Great for meeting people, talking to people.
Absolutely.
But Pottle, they're churning out. It's akin to a coffee shop in an airport.
Yeah, I was just about to make that comparison.
You're going, you're getting out.
I would say it's a little bit. No, it's probably similar because some people do sit, and there was people sitting in there doing meetings there or whatever. Yes. But Yeah, I mean, they're churning it out. Now, Chef Ed chimes in the ESPN Milwaukee YouTube chat. She probably saw your 3-cone drill and felt sorry for you. I just want to tell everybody, I will be running a 40-yard dash on Wednesday morning.
Why?
I asked KBN, they're going to be back at Potter Sportsbook on Friday.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, I want to come with you guys. And they said, okay. Get under 6 seconds on a 40 first.
Have you been practicing?
Now, I was going to say, if this were me, I'd probably be running 40s.
Yeah, I have
and
not
lead up.
I have not run a 40 yet. I might tonight.
That's not enough
Just
time.
to see. But I don't know how to time my own 40s.
And where are you going to run it?
There's a parking lot outside my apartment.
It's just going to be a weirdo sprinting back and forth.
There's Strouf sprinting from one end of the parking lot to the other.
I think it's a little bit longer than 40 yards, but yeah.
What you need to work on is your start.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
I can't stumble out of it.
No.
But 6.28, I think I can shave 0.29, like 0.3 of a second off.
I think you can. We also, that brings me to, we need to start Strouf Does Sports soon.
Yep.
Yeah, we do.
We need to get that in action. I don't know who we've tabbed to do what yet, but we need to get that.
Well, I've got agreements from the following people on the following sports. Actually, not all of them, but these are the ideas I've had. I do have confirmation from Gabe Neitzel. He will teach me how to swing a baseball bat. Okay, we've got.
Have you? So baseball, you could not play due to the dangers of your heart issues as a child.
Yeah, I can't take a fastball off the ribs. Right.
Right. How often have you swung a baseball bat? Pitching, like, have you gone to how often have you been to a batting?
Never been in a batting cage.
Because
I played bar league softball for a few years. I was on a summer league baseball team one year, even though I shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
And I actually wasn't horrible.
Because the single thing I've done the most as a person at this point in sports is probably swing a baseball bat.
Huh?
I was playing t-ball. I played like into high school. I swung a baseball bat thousands and thousands and thousands
t-ball.
of times.
I played a little bit of baseball and then a lot of softball. So I've swung a baseball bat plenty of times.
Okay.
So I don't think I'll be that awful. So Gabe Neitzel's going to teach me baseball.
Are we going to be able to now? So batting cages, obviously, you have to be swinging a baseball bat.
Yep.
But I need you in the field.
Yeah, catching some pop-ups, grounders, stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
I have not asked him yet, but I'm sure he will oblige. Steven Watson, golf.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
not
you
asked
gotta
Jesse
redeem
yet,
yourself
but
from that.
I think Jesse Nelson's got to take me bowling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ben Brust is refusing to teach me basketball.
He doesn't want that on his name?
Yeah, well, I asked him, I was like, I want to wear these people's jerseys, right? So, like, I would hope Gabe somewhere has a Platteville jersey he'll let me wear, yada, yada. Ben's like, yeah, you're not touching any of my jerseys. Not even my Bucks Summer League one or my Lithuania practice jersey. I was like, you've let me wear the Lithuania practice jersey before. And he goes, yeah, not now.
Yeah, he saw the product.
So
If Ben won't do it, we know enough basketball people to get you. Like
Maybe
you
Tony
could
Smith.
even. That'd be great. You also had high school coaches bullying you.
football coaches, yeah.
Yeah, so like we could have those guys. I'm sure you could get to a basketball.
No, they
coach.
weren't bullying me. They were saying I was solid.
No, they're bullying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, you and I
my
both
guys,
know
Andrew
Coach
Selgrad
Becker.
are ripping, yeah.
Yeah, and you and I both
Yeah.
know Coach Becker,
Becker
at
at
Stoughton.
Stoughton, yeah.
That was him taking shots. So,
He
can
was
we do
doing
real
it
quick?
fun lovingly.
Yeah. Can we real quick go back to the coffee story? So if you felt as
Yeah, go
though she might have been hitting on you, did you instantly tell your girlfriend?
I did, yes.
Okay.
I did. Actually,
I just needed to
no.
make sure.
Okay, hold on. No, actually, hold on. No, I didn't.
Wait,
You
but
just
hold on.
lied to
If you
me?
get hit on, you have to instantly report getting hit on.
I didn't instantly report it, but
But
so
you
what
have to
happened
report it
was-
before
like-
sundown. I'm like, you got it's got to be before you go to bed, right? That's what I'm saying.
I didn't know there
You
was
cannot let it
I
go
actually-
past midnight without reporting.
I didn't think I was getting hit on, to be honest, because she didn't say anything. She was like,
Right.
here you go, cutie, right? Like, that's not how it happened. It was more, hey, have a great day. And she smiled and walked away, right? Like, that was it. So I didn't view it as being hit on. I just thought it was standard. But then Brian's the one that pointed out, like, I didn't get one.
Yeah.
You're wearing your pea coat. You look handsome. I'm wearing like a hoodie. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. So I did not tell my girlfriend, but somebody passed it along because I got a text from her a few hours later that said, and she was joking, of course, but she said something to the effect of, in all capital letters, I can't even say this, I don't think.
Well, I wouldn't. Why don't you edit it?
I'm trying to in my head. I just don't know how to also
There's
deliver a
that
funny
many
one.
words?
I believe it was, I hope you enjoyed your donut and a side of bleep. Calling this woman a degrading word, jokingly.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was an obligation to report within sundown.
This is a phenomenal question. I don't know.
Because
if it was a blatant, like, she's flirting with me, I would probably make
right,
mention
if
of it.
it would have been like, hey, this woman walked up to me, gave me her number, and like asked her mine, to which I like awkwardly responded no, I'd probably share that.
Right.
But there's definitely been times where I'm like, I think that woman was hitting on me.
I think that was flirty. Right.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna do anything about. I'm just gonna kind of pretend it never
Brush
happened.
it off and move
I'll
on.
never see this person again. It's
Right.
insignificant.
Yes, that's how I
'Cause
feel
imagine
typically as well.
when my girlfriend goes out and is out with like all the girls, I would imagine she probably gets hit on. I don't feel any need to know. It's just the nature of people being out and consuming alcohol.
Yeah, like I'm not saying like, oh, if it happens where my wife is, like somebody hits on her, she has to tell me. I'm just saying like the way that I am, I'm like, you know what? Before the end of the day here, I'm going to give her an update and just be like, hey, this was weird. This happened. Like,
If I did it
Yeah.
and I mentioned it, it would probably be bragging. The chicks are digging.
Chicks are digging.
oh yeah, you have to turn it into a joke. Like that's a
Chicks
requirement
are
with the
digging JOSHY,
reporting.
baby.
The chicks were. I got a compliment. On my. Someone said they liked my beard and glasses. I'd be like, hell yeah!
You hear
got,
that?
you
Yeah.
got a catch here. You got yourself a dandy.
You know what, honey? You outkicked your coverage.
You are lucky.
Yes, you are. Very good. All right, that will do it for us today. We can dive into the Packers a little bit deeper Wednesday. Continue to talk a little March Madness. I got to get our buddy Rob DiMaggio out. I'm hoping to get him on sometime this week.
Have you talked to him?
I have not post Redbirds loss on Saturday. I talked to him on Saturday morning.
Xavier Mitchell was incredible in that game for Oshkosh North, by the way.
Oshkosh North tops the Pier, which, of course, Rob Domofsky's youngest son was a
Did you
senior on
wish
that team.
him luck and his son? Is that what you talked on Saturday?
Yeah, we talked a little high school hoops, as we do. We both are very fond of high school basketball. I think probably him more so because his son plays and me more so because I'm a dork.
I'm not going to say this to Rob's face, but when I heard Rob's kids were basketball players, I did not expect them to be as good as I've seen them be. I was watching Rowan's the one currently in high school.
Yep.
I was watching him going, wow, this kid can hoop.
Yeah.
Rob
Hey,
doesn't.
hey, Hunter. Hey, Hunter.
Yeah.
Please cut this for when Rob joins us.
Yep, I will.
I'm a big Rob guy, big fan of him. I think he's
Don't
fun.
include this part.
I think he's fun, entertaining. But when you see bald head Rob walking through, you're not looking like
Hooper.
He's got
with the
hoopers.
bald head.
We'll talk to you Wednesday, Mr. Relevant. Peace.